You're listening to Mad Radio. Mad Radio. Mad Radio. Make a difference.
Quick, me lads! Hoist the rigging!
Aye, Captain!
Splice the main brace! Batten down the hatches!
Aye, Captain!
I'm going below deck to get the show started.
And now, the man with the largest collection of garbage pail kid stickers. It's Mr. Distasteful himself, Buggin' Brandon McCarty.
Well, thank you, Petey. Whoa, hey, welcome in, all you scallywags, you swashbucklers, landlubbers, hornswogglers, and salty dogs to the Peg Leg Podcast, a show where we delve into the lives of fellow pirates and learn a bit more about the unsung heroes among us all. Arr! This week we traveled to the Networking and Operations IT Department to speak with an individual who got their AA from MJC in Computer Information Systems. Hey, they went on to get their BS from Western Governors University in Network Security and Operations. They completed 79 units in 1 year. Talk about not having a life. Holy moly. Hey. They currently hold 15 industry certifications, and we will find out what some of those are in just a little bit. They designed the YCCD, LAN, and wireless networks. So, you really need to reach out to your IT people and tell them they're doing a great job. Hey, this person taught networking lab at MJC for a few years on an unofficial basis and will be teaching their first official classes at Columbia this fall. Now on to the personal side of things. He has been married for the past 20 years. He has 3 kids, which were homeschooled. He's been spinning records also for the last 20 years, and we will probably have to find out exactly what kind of music it is that he's been spinning. He's been playing the bass for 5+ years. Yeah, I kind of dabbled in that myself. He started playing with his kids, and it went from there. He is in one band called Glass Door. We'll have to find out where you can see them. And he's also talking with a friend about joining another. Holy moly. Check this out. He is currently playing in the inaugural Stanislaus Pinball League, and we will talk about some of the places where you can find those in the area. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the poop deck the Networking and Operations Director, Scott Fernandes.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, wow. So, very interesting. You are very eclectic. You've got lots of interests.
I do.
Interesting. Well, I guess let's just get right to it. How, then, did you find your way to such an interesting place, the MJC, or to YCCD, I should say?
Well, I did start at MJC, but we can go back. I grew up in Modesto. I grew up in the 80s and was always enamored with computers. I grew up in kind of the golden age of video games, and my grandmother was a elementary teacher.
So are we talking like Commodore 64 and Amiga and all those things?
So before I got my own computer,
yes,
back even, I think her school had a computer. And when I would go to spend the night at her house, one of the teachers could take the computer home for the weekend. So when I was going to go spend the night over their house for sometime in the weekend, she would bring the computer home, and I would get these computer magazines. Like, there was one from Children's Television Workshop called Enter Magazine. And at the end of the magazine, they had some little basic programs you could type in that it would do totally useless things, like, calculate your weight on Mars or something silly like that.
That's cool.
And so I would sit there in front of that green screen and type in this program for like 3 hours, and it would do the dumbest thing. And I thought it was so cool. Now, you did hit the nail on the head. So my dad was a UPS driver.
Okay.
And there were guys that he worked with that were also kind of into the computer scene back in the day. There was I guess you could call it a hacker scene back in the Commodore 64 days.
So you were doing more than just Oregon Trail at this point.
Not quite yet, but
Okay.
but eventually, yes, a lot more than Oregon Trail. Anyway, my dad asked this guy, his name was Gaylord Phillips, and he said, "My kid's really into computers. What should I get him?" And he said, "You should buy him a Commodore 64. If he can figure out how to use that, he'll be able to do anything for the rest of his life." And I've always been thankful to him because he was right. That was the most difficult computer to navigate around, and it was also the coolest computer. I still have my Commodore 64.
Really?
I do. I need to fix it. It's not functioning, but I can't get rid of that thing. It's I spent many years with that thing. By the time I was in 4th grade, I had my own BBS, which, if any of you know what you know what a BBS is?
I know what a BBS is.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm so impressed.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, so it was the precursor to the internet. Really,
That's correct.
You could go in and you kind of had mail. You
kind of had mail.
Kind of had mail, right? And
Yes.
but there were video games that I was playing on other people's computers back in the day that they had some program that they had done. I think I'm aging myself. Oh my gosh.
We are definitely aging ourselves here. But yes, so on my 300 baud modem, which
took forever.
Yes, nothing was fast. You could transfer games over it, and that's what we would do. And there were guys called freakers with a PH, and they knew how to manipulate the telephone system so that they could call from anywhere, without paying toll charges, essentially. And
Interesting.
I had someone from Washington call my BBS one time, and then actually kind of a hacker named the Bandit Boy that I had been familiar with because I'd seen his name on some of the games that I had, and he was like, it was like any celebrity calling me. The Bandit Boy had called me. I had made it. I was so cool. But yeah, so I'd screwed around with that computer for many years. I went to Modesto Christian all the way from kindergarten through junior high, and the computer classes there, the teacher would ask me what we needed to do next. Right, so I was kind of teaching the computer class at Modesto Christian, because it's just kind of the math teacher gets the computer class back in those days.
Sure.
First, I don't know why I was the math teacher, but math teacher always seemed to teach computers for some reason. I went to Davis for high school, and Davis had a VMS VAX lab. So again, this is still before the internet. So this was a closed system. There was no grades, no anything. It was a Unix-based system. I actually met Josh Hash in that computer lab. So Bayer High, he went to Bayer. And Bayer did not have a computer lab. So again, we're dating ourselves.
Do you remember who your teacher was at Davis? Because I went to Davis as well.
Did you?
I did.
Where'd you
95.
graduate? Oh, I'm 94.
Oh my gosh.
What?
We didn't even know we
Maybe
probably
we
passed
did,
each other in the hallway.
Davis was a bit of a crazy school, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
Mr. Patterson was...
Didn't he teach a sport as well? Or no?
No, he didn't seem very athletic.
Oh.
I had Mr. Calvin a little bit as well, but Mr. Patterson was the one. He was very influential in my life. He was at that time, computers was just a hobby. It was something I messed around with and that I loved just screwing around with. And I was a freshman or sophomore, and he said, "You're really good at this stuff. Have you ever thought of doing this for a career?" And it was like a bomb exploded in my head. It was like, I could make money doing this. That's awesome. How can I do that? And I guess I started studying programming more and more. Went to MJC and took Brian Larson's C+ programming class and realized that programming was not for me very quickly. And I'm very thankful to Brian for that because he helped me realize what I did not want to do in my career.
And that's a very time-consuming thing.
Oh, yes, it is. And it's very much sitting in front of a screen,
right?
Not being very mobile. It's very sedentary. So I like going around and being in multiple places and having my hand in lots of different things. So I'm kind of glad it worked out that way. But at the time, I didn't really know that there was any other career to be had in computers. And really, even in the early 90s, there wasn't a whole lot. I didn't even see the internet. I think I had just graduated high school the first time one of my friends that lived in Del Rio had AOL. And, and I
yes.
saw the actual internet for the first time and was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Did you have an IBM computer before then?
I did not.
No.
I did not. I went straight from my Commodore 64 to buying my first Apple from the MJC bookstore. If you remember when the MJC bookstore sold computers, and that was the best discount you could get on Apple
Really?
computers. Yes. Ooh, are we? That would have been like 94. That was even
Oh.
before your time.
Yeah. A little bit.
But yes, Bobby Beeson, I think. She was the one that worked at the library at that time. So that's who I bought my first computer from. I sold a bunch of old baseball cards. My dad and I collected baseball cards. So I sold a bunch of, like Willie Mays, Hank Aaron.
Sure.
And bought my first Apple computer for, it was probably like $2,000 for... It was not cheap, and it was already discounted at MJC, so it was less than retail.
Right.
But at the same time, so there was one place you could get internet access. So you go to high school and then you stay here for MJC, and a lot of your friends go away to college. Well, the way we could communicate was through email, and you could get your email on CCC InfoNet at the library lab. With Gene Turney ran that library lab. Well, Josh Hash was a student employee and worked in the library lab, and so we'd see each other, and he was kind of the best computer student from Bayer. I was kind of his star student from Davis, and so we kind of combined forces and got into a little bit of mischief. That
Wonder Twins unite.
Absolutely.
Yes.
He eventually started working as a student in the old shop, the old media shop. Back then, that's who took care of the PCs and did a lot of other things around. The only kind of IT, was IS really in the district, and that was kind of data processing and things like that. Your PCs and your, basically everything else was taken care of by media services at the time. And I remember he came up to me one day. He's like, "Hey, dude, you interested in a job? My boss Clement's hiring student employees." And at that time, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I didn't like programming. And so I said, sure, I'll go talk to him. That sounds great. I was working pizza. It sounded like a much better job than delivering pizzas. So went down there and talked to Clement and got a job. So Dennis Larson, actually, this is how it goes back to the Macs. He took care of Macs, and he needed a student to do his Mac work orders for him, so he didn't have to do them. And so that was kind of my entry into MJC. So I was hired as a student worker, essentially. One of the first things, that's when we were running the Cat5 cables for the original network lines for the original network. So one of my first things was putting network cards in computers because the computers didn't come with network cards pre-installed. So I've kind of been around since the very beginning of the YCCD network.
Wow. That's before all of the fiber optic stuff. And
That
all
was
of it,
no.
right?
So they were running that at the time too. So that was 97. I should have mentioned that.
Okay,
So
okay.
97. Clement Xavier was a very smart man and very forward thinking, and ran multi-mode and single mode fiber. And single mode was so new, we didn't even really have a use for it at the time, but he knew we would in the future. And we're
Interesting.
still using a lot of that fiber on campus, that single mode fiber. A lot of
Dang.
it's been replaced, but yes, a lot of it is still there. He also somehow managed to get a deal, Clement and Bill Woodard. We traded basically easement with the cable company. I can't remember. It wasn't Comcast then, but it's whatever they were at the time. They somehow traded easement for 12 strands of dark fiber between East and West Campus. And that is extremely valuable. You can't get that. And if you pay for that much dark fiber these days, you are paying a lot of money. I don't even know what it would cost. I wouldn't even want to ask. It's a lot of money. So whenever anybody hears that we have just 12 strands of dark fiber that we own, they are very envious.
So what is the difference between just regular fiber and then dark fiber?
So dark fiber is fiber that you can basically do whatever you want with. We own it from point A to point B. So usually when you're renting the fiber optic lines from a company, whatever it is, and they're giving you a certain amount of bandwidth, but it's just our fiber. We can do whatever we want with it. It's really, really nice. So East and West Campus can be essentially one contiguous network. Now working on making East more survivable right now.
And that's kind of how the intranet works then? Is that part of that, or?
Yeah, so instead of having two separate networks that each go out, well, they each have an internet connection from Scenic because we have a great internet provider, Scenic. They're amazing. Yeah, so they each have their own connectivity, but West Campus is really kind of the main brains of it with the data center, and East is where the most population is, although not quite so much after Measure E. But yeah.
Dang.
There's a lot going on.
I don't think that anyone even remotely thinks about all of the things that have to happen for them to sit down in front of their computers.
Well, you shouldn't have
on
to.
A daily basis. No, you shouldn't. But I mean, we certainly appreciate everything that you, obviously you and all of your crew do to keep us, really able to work.
I have a great crew. They're extremely talented and extremely dedicated. The college owes a great debt of gratitude to them. Or I try and tell them on a regular basis how thankful I am for them.
Man, oh, that's awesome. So, obviously, we already talked about you growing up in Modesto. You said one of your first jobs was it you were a pizza guy? Where did you work at?
I worked at Pizza Connection, which is now an on-ramp to 99.
Oh, it's not even. It doesn't even exist.
It does not exist. The building doesn't exist.
Do you remember? Speaking about pizza, and maybe some of the listeners may remember this, and I may be crazy, but there was a place called the Pizza Machine.
I remember that.
It was on the corner.
Yeah,
of
they
Coffee.
had a great arcade.
Yeah, not only that, but they had there was a big steely ball that ran around a track that was all around the inside of the place. That's why it was called the Pizza Machine.
I don't remember that. I think I was too busy playing Spy Hunter or whatever cool games they had over there.
It was on Coffee and Orange.
Yeah, I remember exactly where it was.
I think there's a Mountain Mike's there now.
There is, yes.
Okay.
It's not nearly as cool as Pizza Machine.
No, not
was.
at all.
Yeah, Pizza Machine was a cool place. We'd go there after baseball games, and I would, eat pizza and play video games. Okay. There and what was Shakey's? That was the other pizza place that had a great arcade.
We need these places back, man. Jeez. I don't know. There's not a well, now that we're talking about pizza, I mean, geez, we just can't. We can't stop.
I'm sorry, it's dinner time too.
It is. That's true. So, is there? Well, we'll get into food in a minute, but we'll switch it up a little bit here. What are some of your hobbies outside of work? I mean, we kind of talked about some of them with. I'm sure that playing the bass is certainly one of the hobbies.
Definitely. Yes, and I think you mentioned spinning records.
Yes.
So I spin house music, so the kind of music you might have heard in a basement in Oakland at 3 a.m. in the late 90s or early 2000s. Good hard beats, not techno, not, mine's a little bit more, I'm a total music nerd, so I gotta have it, and I'm a bass nerd too, so I need some fat bass lines and something more musical, not just, repetitious sounds and whatnot, but I like something with some piano solo or a saxophone solo to kind of integrate in and out of there. My records are often don't have a lot of lyrics either. I usually, if I have a record, I'll usually be spinning the one that's a dub, which means you're not going to have a lot of lyrics. I'm not big on the lyrics.
I was going to throw out LCD sound system.
I love LCD sound system.
Okay, all right, we're on the same page.
I have some LCD sound system vinyl that I like to mix in with that. So I don't play exclusively that, but it's a lot of 4 on the floor and, mixing things in like Salt and Pepper or, I don't know, 80s, electronica.
We're talking like Daft Punk kind
of stuff? Exactly,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's few things better than good house music, and there's few things worse than bad house music.
So do you, let's say that you were to show up at, someone says, hey, I would love to have you, do such and such at this time for this set event. Are you, or I guess, first off, do you do those kinds of things?
I would.
You would.
I haven't. I'm in the middle of kind of getting my own gear so I can do that myself and not have to rely on anybody else's sound system or anything like that.
Would you do a lot of that stuff? Would you do that ahead of time, so where you already had kind of like a set list already in place, or are you doing stuff on the fly? You're just
I like doing it on the fly. Like during the lockdowns, I did a set for Modesto View, and I kind of gave myself a starting point. Like, I want to start with this record, and maybe I'll play a couple after that. But after that, it's on the fly. I like improvisational music. That's what the band I play with does. We're an improvisational rock band, and I'm really into jam bands, and so I like stuff to just occur naturally on the fly. There's certain combinations of records that I just really love the way that they go together, and so it's kind of like a 1-2 punch I usually play. And bands do that too. Even jam bands will have certain songs that they kind of just play back to back that just work really well together. And I've got that too, a few records like that. But for most part,
that's like Sir Mix-a-Lot right into Barry Manilow, right? That's
oh man, if you can pull that off seamlessly, you're a better DJ than I am. I don't have any Barry Manilow records either. I'm proud to say that. I have some weird records, but
right. So
sorry if you like Barry Manilow. Barry Manilow rules.
I'm sure there's like 1 or 2 fans out there. So what are some of your other hobbies outside of work?
Let's see. Well, we were talking earlier. I love playing board games, and
yes.
And we should clarify because you had said I don't like Monopoly, and I
hate
said
Monopoly.
I hate Monopoly too.
Okay.
A lot of people aren't aware there's a wide world of board games outside of Monopoly, and my kids I don't think have ever played Monopoly. I'm proud to say that. There's thousands of games that come out a year. They're very strategic and thematic. We're all really into Star Wars at my house, so I have a number of Star Wars games that my son and I play quite often. So I have over 100 board games at my house that get played pretty regularly.
What are some that you don't get tired of at all? Because it's constantly. I mean, there's just differences every time you play.
My favorite game is Terraforming Mars. My favorite Euro game is Orléans, or as my kids say, Orleans, because they refuse to say it with the proper pronunciation. So kids, if you're listening, my son would probably be annoyed at Orléans. Star Wars Rebellion is an absolutely fantastic Star Wars game where you're playing through kind of the original trilogy, the Empire against the Rebellion, and the Empire is trying to find the Rebellion's hidden rebel base and destroy it, and they can make a Death Star and blow up a planet. It's crazy fun. And the Rebellion's trying to gain sympathy in the galaxy, and basically you're just trying to last long enough to get enough sympathy in the galaxy to take over the Empire. It takes about 5 hours, and that might sound like a really long time to play a game. It just flies by. It's a ton of fun. And my 10-year-old son just beat me the other day at it, and I don't let them win. I play to win, but I don't care if I win. And so yeah, my 10-year-old son beats me at strategy games quite a bit.
Is this something that can the Empire win as well?
Oh yeah, he's always the Empire.
Oh, okay.
He always wants to play the Empire, and so yes, he destroyed the rebels last time, so it was not a happy ending. Yeah, but it tells a really fun story a lot of times. Crazy things happen. I think the last time we played, Leia turned into a Sith and played for the dark side and gave away where the hidden rebel base was. It's a pretty great game. It's a lot of fun.
Interesting. And also, you play the bass.
I do.
That's something that you've picked up just recently, or?
So when my grandfather passed away, probably about 15 years ago, and he had a lot of grandkids. He had 7 kids, so there was just a little bit of money to go around for each of us, and I love the bass. I've been enamored with it, and I figured I'm going to buy a bass and an amp and teach myself to play. And so I did. I bought a Thunderbird and an amp. That amp blew out in like a year, and not because I was turning it up to 11. I got a limit, I guess. But I didn't really have. I need a catalyst. I need something to kick me to really sit down. Playing bass is not easy. You can't just pick it up and sound good. So I was busy, having a young child and then having two more, and just never really took the time to get very good at it. My daughter's a better bass player than I am. So she has on order a really nice, what is it? What is she getting? Oh my gosh. I'm gonna, Music Man Dark Ray. That's what it is. But I started playing. So I think that's what you're getting to. When she was very little, the neighborhood kids would come over, and instead of playing tag or whatever, she would want to play band with the kids and, make them, you're going to bang the pots and I'll hit the little xylophone thing or whatever. And I don't know, a few years ago, she wanted to start a band at VMI with a friend of mine and his daughter. And so I said, sure. So the first time I actually sang, which is the hardest thing to do. And then I started playing bass, and then she decided that she wanted to start playing bass, and she really excelled. So she's in a number of bands around town, and I've played in a few bands with my kids, and then the band I'm in, we don't play around town. We just play. We play in the drummer's garage, and it's that's really made me quite a bit better. The guitarists are really, really good, and so throwing myself in the fire is kind of it's a good way to accelerate my playing and force me to keep up. It's a lot of fun. I look forward to it every week.
But you have this band that are you going out with them at all?
No, we haven't played around yet. We jam. So, and it's not even, we don't call out, we're going to play something in E or anything like that. Somebody just starts something and we pick it up and make something out of nothing, essentially. And it's a lot of fun. I should start kind of recording it because it feels like we're kind of creating little parts of songs. But right now it's just kind of fairy dust. It's there and it's gone.
Well, at some point you're going to need an audience just to really absorb the things that that you guys are putting out. I think that sometimes just the raw stuff alone is enough to really just kind of whet the appetite of somebody who really just wants to hear music.
All I really ever wanted to do was jam, and so being able to do that for the last year and a half, however long we've been playing together, has been awesome. It's something that, when I was a kid, if I could, you ever think about that, look back, if I could see myself, if my kid self could see what I was doing, I would think that was so awesome.
Right. Yeah, like never in a million years did I think I would be doing said thing or whatever.
I mean, when we were kids, this would have been magic.
That's true. So tell us about the Stanislaus Pinball League. I know that's something else that you've been spending some time doing. I mean, when you're not playing music and stuff like that. What is this all about?
So this is actually the inaugural season. I was lucky enough to get in. So I've been playing pinball my whole life. When I was a kid, my dad and I played baseball. My dad and I would go to the batting cages all the time at putt-putt golf. And so we'd go to the batting cages, and then we'd go play whatever pinball machine was there, because he used to play pinball when he was a kid. And as I got older, I remember, it was 91 when Terminator 2 came out.
Ooh, that was a good one.
It is a good one. And so I was, 15.
Was that down at the old Tilt?
No.
No, where was it?
No, it was at Funworks. So we would go to Putt-Putt Golf,
okay,
and then we would go next door. Once Funworks opened up, so we're talking old school Funworks, where it was in the strip mall, not the big one with the go-karts and all that. So
right, and that was on Oakdale.
Oakdale and...
what's the other street? It's Floyd. Yeah.
So, yes, I remember the first time I'd play, there were a couple other older guys that would play, and they were the grand champions, and they had the big score, the top score. And I remember the first time they were there, too. We were playing together, and I just blew the game up and beat the guy's score and got my first grand champion score. And that was really, really, it became much more of an addiction after that. Not an addiction, but something that I really loved doing. So I actually worked at Funworks from it was my high school and college job, until I worked at Pizza Connection that we mentioned a bit.
Yeah.
So I worked there for 4 years. So you get a lot of free tokens there, and they had great pinball. So I got to play all those great pinball machines that came in through the 90s, the early 90s. And it kind of dried up in the 2000s as arcades kind of went away, and it's made a resurgence in recent years. So a few years ago, before Corona, I found in Lodi in May there is this Golden State Pinball Festival, and
Yes.
somehow I found out about that and went, and just was in heaven. There's 2 or 3 warehouses full of machines on free play. At the same time, there were some places kind of around that were putting newer pins in that you could play. There's an app and a website called the Pinball Map that is crowdsourced that shows what machines are where and kind of what condition they're in and things like that. So I'd been playing a while, and I got a lot of good scores on a lot of machines, and my dad's always saying what a good player I am and whatnot, and I'm like, well, I would love to do some kind of competition and see, like, is he right? Am I really that good?
Absolutely.
Or not? Like, it'd be fun to do a league or something like that. So I saw that there was a league in Lodi, and it's quite a drive, but I love pinball. So I was willing to make the drive. So I emailed these guys. I'm like, hey, you guys have room in your league? I'm coming from a little bit far away, but I'd love to join your league if you have any openings. And they're like, hey, these guys are starting a league like right in your area. I think they're starting it in January. This was in December. And so I'm like, seriously? So I emailed these guys and got into the league. It started at Contentment, actually, which is right around the corner from East Campus.
Yeah, they just put like 5 or 6 machines in or something like that.
Yes,
right?
yes. And so, yeah, those are Matt's machines, one of the guys that runs the league, and we're very thankful to him for putting all these great machines around town and letting us play them. So yeah, we play every other week on Thursdays. It started at Contentment. We played the same group of machines twice, and then we moved to, he has machines at the Running Iron that we played for a couple weeks. And then after that, he put a bunch of machines in Moab, which is also right by East Campus. So if you work on East Campus, you have something to do at lunch.
Right.
But yeah, there's like 9 machines over there now. So that's where we're playing. We played there last Thursday, and we're playing there next Thursday. And then the finals are, probably 2 weeks after April 20th, whatever that is, back at Contentment. So I'm hoping to make the top 4 for that. But it has been a lot of fun. They're all really, really great people. I've made a lot of fast friends over there. Yeah, it's a really good time. So check them out and come over to Contentment and say hi. Or Moab. I think there's going to be in June a Tuesday league also starting at Moab, a weekly league.
Okay.
So if you want to play, you don't have to be good. It's a casual league, so there's all skill levels. Yeah, come check it out. Play his machines.
Nice. Let's get that. Yeah, let's get these pinball machines back in the vernacular of the kids these days.
We talked about it being kind of a golden age of board games, and it's that way for pinball as well. Even just in the last month, there's been a number of new machines released and announced, and there's all kinds of. I think lockdowns, kind of people being locked in their house. A lot of people started buying them, and it kind of really has helped spur a resurgence of it. And now that we're back out in the world, people that bought all those machines are putting them out on locations, and to the benefit of us all.
Nice. What is something that you pride yourself in?
Oh, going to make me talk about myself now.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I guess I would say, how can I say it? Honesty. I feel like I'm a very honest person and straightforward, and I have integrity. Like, if I say something, I mean it. I'm not going to play games. And I think if we all did that, the world would be a much simpler and better place. We don't all have to agree. It's fine to have different opinions. Just because you have a different opinion, you just be honest about it and don't be a jerk. Be nice, and that's another thing. I think I get along well with others pretty well. I guess I'm not conflict averse, but I don't like conflict necessarily. It's not that fun. Sometimes it's necessary, and hopefully it's positive, but I don't know. I try and always find a positive way. I've never been in a fight in my life. That's something, so I've always been able to diffuse situations, and no matter where they might be. And, you're around, certain things come up, and sometimes you find yourself in situations that you wish you weren't in. And yeah, I don't know. I've always been able to talk my way out of bad situations, no matter where they might be. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't. These are hard questions to answer. What do you?
No, you did. You did just fine. You did just fine. Well, maybe this one's easier. What motivates you?
Now or when I was 23?
Well, we'll go. To your point, yeah, certainly there is a different motive. Yeah, okay, we'll go with now. Yeah,
retirement.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong.
That's
with
not
that.
the only thing. No, my family. I've got to provide for my family, and that's something I've always taken very seriously. My dad always took great care of us. My mom never had to work. She was able to stay home and take care of us, and we made the sacrifices that, and I think it was totally worth it, and we do the same thing in my family. And it is a sacrifice. It's a hard thing, and it's all on my back to make sure that we can pay the bills every month.
Absolutely.
And that's always, it's something on my mind every day. Yeah. So I think that's pretty fair. And retire, YCCD has a nice retirement.
Yeah. We're getting closer and closer to that.
We are.
That bullseye. So yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Right. No, we've given some of our best years of our
I gave most of them.
That's right. That's right. So what do you like about the YCCD community as a whole?
Well, everyone is there because they want to be. We could all be making a lot more money in the Bay Area or wherever. I mean, now online. I mean, you don't even have to go anywhere.
Right.
But we're here because we care. I have a great team. I love the people I work with. So many of them I've known since I was practically a kid. A lot of them were my students that came up just the same way as I did. And I don't know, it's a unique and dedicated group of people who, like I said, they're there because they want to be, not because they have to be. None of us are getting rich working for YCCD. There's other benefits. There's the freedom in our lives that we get to have. There's the vacations and there's so many generous things that we get that are more valuable. I don't think you could put a price on it. I mean, what was it, Ted DiBiase? Everybody's got a price. Remember that?
For the $1 Million Man. That's right.
Everybody probably does have a price. I don't know what mine would be. I don't know if there could be enough money to, I mean, IT especially, working, I worked in the .coms in the early 2000s and late 90s, and there's so much, you're never not working, you are always working. And, I wouldn't be able to go to my kids' gigs or softball games or whatever it is, at least not as much. And that's something that my dad always did. He was always there for those games, and that was something that was important to me that I be able to do. You can't put a price on it. I've been here full time 20 years, and it's not from a lack of. I did used to go out and interview in other places, and nothing ever lured me away. I finally, actually, I'll get back to that later, but there was one time that was finally like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, there's no point. I'm not leaving. I'm too far in.
Yes.
There's nothing that's going to take me away.
Right. We'll find out about that in a minute.
All right.
Where are some of your favorite places to eat?
So this is kind of a funny thing, and it's a joke around our house because I love Indian food. Indian food is my favorite food in the world. It makes me so happy. But we cannot seem to sustain an Indian restaurant in Modesto. So I've discovered I loved Indian food at Guru. It was on Oakdale and Scenic. I used to live over there at the time too. That was a great place, and it closed. And then there was a place, I can't remember the name even. It was by West Campus where the Early Dawn used to be. Do you remember that place? And now it's an Italian restaurant because there aren't enough of those around.
Right.
But yeah, so that was my favorite. And then there was a place right over here, right by Dan's Barbecue. That was a great place. And I think there might have been one other one too.
Was there one on McHenry?
Yes.
I think there was.
There was.
Right?
That was one too. Yes. And they all seem to close. And now there's none. And so, yeah.
Well, dang it.
So what's my favorite place to eat? Well, it was just my birthday the other day. And so the place I chose was Redwood Cafe. So I guess you would have to say that it's Redwood. But that's only because there's no Indian food in town. So somebody bring some good Indian food back, please. I really miss it.
Is there a particular dish or something that you're just like, oh, this is great?
Honestly, I like everything. It makes me happy. So I have celiac though, so naan, if you know the bread, is just fantastic. Garlic naan.
That's the stuff you have to keep in the refrigerator.
The bread?
Yeah, right.
I guess. I
don't
know. My wife just made it for me the other day, so I was able to have some naan. She made gluten-free naan, gluten-free garlic naan, which is just the best thing.
Ooh.
And so, thanks, honey. It was really good. So yes, she made me an Indian meal for my birthday, and it made me really happy. Because Indian food just makes me happy. Yeah, Josh and Patrick and myself used to go to, I can't even remember the name of it, that was right over here, and we'd go to the buffet and just be disgustingly full afterwards to where we could hardly even think. But man, it was good. Star India, that's what it was called.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh man, you're right here too, and
I know.
Am I divulging the location of the
Fortress of Solitude? No, no. No, I never did go to Star. I saw the name Star, but I never. Yeah, I don't venture out that much. I should do better. I think I'll try. I'll try to do better, just for you.
I'm expecting a report next month.
All right. Hopefully it sits well with me. If you will, tell us a funny story or experience, either professionally or personally.
Okay, so this is a little bit of both. So I mentioned that I used to go, take interviews every once in a while just to test the waters, see what was out there, see what I could get. So I got an interview at Disney down south. We have family down there, so I took a couple days, went and stayed with them. They live right by Magic Mountain. And went into Disney, walked in the doors, and I looked around, and I thought, I can't work here. There's no way.
What?
If they give me this job, I cannot work here. I felt it. I felt like this is a big giant corporation, and nothing wrong with Disney. Hey, I love Star Wars and lots of Disney stuff, but there was just something about it. I couldn't work there, and I knew it. And so I interviewed with the hiring manager, and we got along great. And then I went and had the technical interview with two of the top network engineers or whatever. I don't know what they were exactly. They were like big network engineers for Disney. And what they wanted me to do was to design the network for Disney Shanghai, which was being developed at the time. And I had just finished the design and the network in YCCD had just been redesigned, and it was just in. And it was working fantastically. And what we had done was really very new at the time. It was called a routed access network. It's very segmented, very fault tolerant. It's also a lot more complex up front. And so a lot of people at the time were really scared of it. And so basically we went in the interview and they asked me, how would you design Disney Shanghai? And so I basically just designed like one segment of the network. I'm like, okay, so here's like Pirates of the Caribbean or whatever. And then you just basically fan this out everywhere in the network. It's essentially what our network is. I did just a copy of what our network is. I mean, it's a network is a network. It's just, it's not that different. A LAN is a LAN. So I drew it out on the board and they said, it won't work. I said, what do you mean it won't work? They said it won't work. The wireless clients are going to be on a different subnet. I'm like, well, first of all, they're not, because they backhaul to the controller. And they're like, what? That doesn't no, that's not going to work. I'm like, this is my network. It works right now.
I've seen it.
So normally, if you're in an interview and you're trying to get a job, you try and schmooze the people and tell them what they want to hear.
Sure.
But I had already decided I wasn't going to take the job, which everyone should do, by the way. So I just kept doubling down, and essentially, I think I'm like, okay. So the way the network was that they were trying to say I should design it. If one switch goes down in Pirates of the Caribbean, then the whole Disneyland goes down while something called spanning tree recalculates and keeps. It's a loop avoidance mechanism, and I said, if Pirates goes down, you can't have all of Disneyland going down. You guys are doing this wrong. It probably wasn't the nicest,
Well, but you were telling them what they needed to hear. Obviously,
like, oh no,
right?
I said you guys are doing this the old way. It's gonna be a nightmare if you design your network like this.
You can't talk to us. We've got Walt Disney on ice.
And basically, they got up in a huff and left the room, and that was the end of the interview.
Wow.
And so yes, I really think that everyone should go to a job interview that they have no intention of taking the job because it's really fun.
Did you find that it was extremely freeing as well to go ahead and
absolutely yes, absolutely, it was freeing. And I always wonder they have to remember that, because that had to have been at least a somewhat unique experience for them.
Who does this guy think he is?
They have to know that guy was right. That was the way that networks were going.
One day you're going to get a call at like 2:00 in the morning.
Well, the real kicker is 6 months after that, Disney outsourced all of their network engineers, and they brought in visas. And to even get severance, you had to train the people that were replacing you. And so, yeah, my guys were like, "Well, you made the right choice."
Oh man. Oh yeah, it sounds like you did.
Yeah, so I would have lost my YCCD retirement and benefits, and the job at Disney. It would have been all bad.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Well, you made the right choice.
I sure did.
Who has been your biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
I was going to ask what that was. So
yeah, whichever one, or both.
I'll do both. Start professionally, since it's a work-related podcast, not directly associated, but we're
Right.
talking about work. Bill Woodard, I already mentioned his name. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But Bill was the director of media services. He is responsible for me, and I really couldn't even count how many individuals getting really good careers that has taken care of themselves and their families. He started the student program that we're still, we still have students like at the service desk. I'm going to need a couple students here pretty soon to roll out these new phones that we're going to be rolling out. He was a great man. I loved working with him. He taught me and so many around him a lot, and I still think about him quite a bit. He was a really great person. I'm forever grateful to him. Personally, I would probably, my grandpa James. He's one of my heroes. Just in been very influential in how I am as a parent, and just being involved with your kids' lives and getting down on the floor and playing with them, and not having the seen not heard mentality, but being a big kid, and just having a lot of fun in life, being a good husband and having a great relationship with his wife. And he's just, I think he's 87 now. And so, hey, I'm like 47, and to still have my grandfather around is a really cool thing.
Absolutely. Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. If you had a free plane ticket to anywhere in the world, and you could leave tomorrow, and it was safe, where would you go and why?
I think I would go back to Europe and specifically probably Italy. That's the last place I traveled internationally. My daughter was really young, and my wife and I went. There was actually, we went there for Easter. There was a girl so every Easter, the Pope baptizes one person from each continent, in the world. And so the one from North America was from Modesto, from St. Joseph's.
What?
Yes. And so a few of us went, and our pastor, Father Ilo, really wanted us to go and kind of helped us out a little bit so we could make the pilgrimage. And I've been to Europe a couple of times, and I just love Europe. They just know how to live. I've been to England, Germany, Italy. I love just Europe is such a great place. I never want to leave. I love California. I would never live anywhere else in the United States, but man, Europe is just, it agrees with me. So it would be hard, it would be hard not to say to go to Europe. There's so many other places I'd like to go. I'd love to go to Asia, to Africa, Israel. I really would like to see the entire world. One of my great grandfathers is Brazilian. I'd love to go to Brazil, but I just love Europe. It's a lovely place. I always go and don't want to come back. Rome is such an interesting place. It's so ancient. We were lucky enough to take a tour where you get to go underneath St. Peter's, and you get to see, actually, because Rome is built on top of old Rome.
Right.
So you get to see, we got to walk around like ancient Rome, essentially, and it's just, I don't even have words. It's still all these years later. It's just.
Are these catacombs or?
This was, it's under St. Peter's Basilica, and it's where they actually think his bones are, and they're pretty certain it is. But no, it was like you were walking through the streets of ancient Rome. It was called the Scavi tour, and you can't just take it. You have to kind of have it. I don't know. I don't know how he worked it, but
you got to know somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah, exactly. It was just Rome. I mean, the Vatican Museum alone. I mean, all of the art from all the places all over the world. I mean, I saw so many. I almost felt bad because at a certain point, you can't take in any more. You can't take in one more sculpture. I mean, seeing these works by Michelangelo, and I mean, you can't even fathom, like, man, this is so old. These are like the masters. And I could have spent a week just in that museum alone.
Jeez. Mm.
But the pizza was terrible.
All right, then I won't have that there then. That's fine.
Don't eat pizza if you, I mean, at least the one I got, it was not good.
Oh, no.
But I guess Rome isn't, you don't necessarily go for there's a lot of other places in Italy you go for the food.
Right. Well, if you only had 3 albums that you could listen to for the rest of your life, what would they be and why?
This is the toughest question of all.
You know what? You're right. And most people who have been on the podcast, this is the one that they struggle with the most.
So I actually, on the way here, I checked my Last FM. I've been scrobbling everything I've listened to for the last probably 16 years. If you know Last FM, have you heard of that site? It used to be a music streaming site.
Okay, yes.
So everything I listen to on all my devices goes there, and it's helped me discover just an absolute ton of music. And I looked, and I think it's over like 15,000 albums I've listened to in the last 15 years. So I listen to a very wide range of music from rock and jazz, classical, electronic music. So this is a very tough, except one. So the first album is Headhunters by Herbie Hancock. Chameleon is my favorite song in the world. If I was a pro wrestler, that would be my entrance song.
That's that right.
I could listen to that song over and over. The whole album is great. I mean, it's 4 songs, 4 great songs. It's got lots of funk, it's jazzy. That was the one jazz album I had to choose, although it hurt not to have Miles. I love Miles Davis, but and a lot of other jazz. But Headhunters by Herbie Hancock, that's number 1. Number 2, and so I listen to a lot of like live sets. A lot of my bands they allowed recording of their concerts, like the Grateful Dead. You could record the concert. So every concert, a lot of concerts I've been to, I have the shows, but I limited myself to actual releases of albums to make it a little bit easier on myself. So Fish, New Year's 95 is an album they released. I was at that show at Madison Square Garden. I followed Fish for the New Year's 95 tour with a couple of friends. Ended up being one of, if not the greatest shows they've ever played. Even Rolling Stone said it was one of the best concerts of the 90s, and it got an official release. Unfortunately, I really should have bought the vinyl when it was out for Record Store Day a few years ago. I regret not forking out the money for that.
Is it hard to find today?
It is hard to find today.
That's like, okay.
But yeah, to have a show that I went to be something that's kind of in the annals of Fish history. Fish is a very interesting band. They're extremely talented. Not everybody's cup of tea, but I love them to death. I had to choose that one, although again, it'd be hard not to have any Grateful Dead or Moe or a number of any other bands, or like we were saying, Dark Side of the Moon. Man,
right.
That was like number 4. So number 3, I would have to have some kind of house music, some kind of electronic music, and probably my favorite, the one I could listen to over and over again, is by DJ and Doc Martin from LA, and it's Imperial Dub Volume 1, Songs of Faith and Devotion, or something like that is what the subtitle is. It was from a record label back in the day called Imperial Dub, and it was very kind of unique music. It was electronic, but kind of tribal, and just had a really unique sound. So it's all a bunch of their records that he mixed, and it's just a lovely album. It's another one I can just listen to over and over, but man, I would hate to only have to listen to 3 albums for the rest of my life.
Man, I'll have to check that out. That sounds really interesting. Well, it sounds like you've covered a lot of the bases there with all of the your musical proclivities.
I had to cut out classical. Sorry.
Oh, well.
Sorry, Bach.
That's all right. If you would, do you have any parting words of encouragement for us?
Work hard and stay in school. No.
Don't do drugs.
Things are going to get better. Things can always get better, and things are what you make of them. So much of life is our perception of it and what we make of it. What does it make lemonade out of lemons, or whatever that is? I don't know if is that a word of encouragement? I'm not sure.
Well, maybe.
But yeah, things can always get, no matter how dark things might seem, life is cyclical. One constant is change, and things will change, and make them change for the better. I don't know. That's all I got.
Works for me. Scott, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to give us a window into your life, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Well, the winds are picking up and the barnacles are collecting on the bow. Time for us to set sail, me hearties. This episode was brought to you by the Great Barriers of Zaxxon. Well, you remember that game? Oh. Produced by myself. And edited by that thing over there that is the opposite of quiet, Patchy the Parrot. And music by the Ones and Zeros Xylophone Trio. Well, hopefully you are enjoying a cool one, somewhere nice and sunny and not too hot, and hopefully on a beach or wherever your comfort spot is. Make sure that you're getting outside, though, and exploring the great outdoors. But, as always, remember to keep your booty close and your sword sharp, lest you find yourself swabbing the deck on the bottom of Davy Jones's locker. Until we meet again.